All right, so we're doing a fun trip down memory lane here. I am just going to narrate a little bit while I scroll through my Club Xterra build thread. So, quick look at how long I've had this vehicle. So I purchased it in May of 2012. So when I first purchased it, faded gray plastic, stock Nerf bars, 16x7 rims. It had 4 mismatched tires. It was probably typical for older vehicles there. So within about 2 weeks of owning it, I decided to do a couple touch-ups here. I did plastic dip on the emblems, so the little Xterra logo on the rear hatch, the rear bumper. I did take the front bumper and like the trim around the headlights off, and did some spray paint, plastic dip on like the door handles and stuff. But I did Rust-Oleum spray on bed liner. For a more expensive vehicle, I would not just use spray paint, but for an older vehicle that, already had really bad looking faded plastics, like I didn't mind doing it. It made it look a lot better. Now I told myself I was going to show restraint and I was not going to, modify a whole bunch of stuff on it. And that lasted about 3 weeks. I ended up doing the PML with the AC adjustable shackle. So AC is Automotive Customizers, also known as 4x4parts.com. They have an adjustable shackle, which is basically a long shackle that has multiple holes drilled through it. I decided to go with that, so that way if I had too much lift in the rear, I could drop it down to a lower hole, and I could have room for expansion where I could get upper control arms later on, and then I could just max out the rear shackle. I wanted to avoid doing leaf springs for a rear suspension, just because in my experience it tends to stiffen up the ride, make it a little uncomfortable, especially like in situations where if you hit a pothole or go over railroad track or speed bumps. So I wanted to go with just basically the tall shackle and did the PML. So that was about 3 weeks after owning it there. Removed the rear sway bar just so I could get a little bit of extra flex going on there. So testing out some flex. Yeah, that all happened within the first month of owning this vehicle. So at this point, this is, July 10th is when I posted this. So I installed an aftermarket head unit, nothing too special, but JVC with auxiliary input, which was nice. I got a Cobra 19 DX3 CB radio, installed this $30 CB from Walmart. So at this point, my plan has kind of started to materialize. I knew I wanted to go ahead and get the upper control arms and an idler arm brace from 4x4parts.com. I had the adjustable shackles already, so I wanted to bump those up to the highest setting, which is about 2 1/8 inch in the rear, and then a 3-inch upper control arm, so that way I could level out the rake a little bit. Index those torsion bars to get the ride height that I want in the front. And I had my eye on some new tires because I still had the 4 mismatched tires that were on there when I first purchased it. I had my eyes on a Cooper Discover ATP tire, which is from Discount Tire Direct. It's a Discount Tire Direct exclusive tire, not one of the normal Coopers. All right, so at this point, it's like August of 2012, so a few months of owning this thing. I went ahead and I got my Cooper Discover ATPs installed, 265, 75, 16. I went ahead and Rust-Oleum bed lined all of the rims. It kind of matched the different areas and mud flaps and plastic trim that I had bed lined. I was happy with my stance. I got an alignment. I was feeling pretty good. This is a picture of it with basically the 2 1/8 inch shackle in the rear and all the way lifted to level it out as much as I could, while still maintaining good bump stop clearance there. So that's how it looked as of August. So by October, I was starting to get a little bit more into off-roading, and well, I didn't have a trailer hitch on the Xterra, so I needed rear recovery points. So I had found some folks on eBay that sold kind of weld-on shackles, and I had sent them a note and asked them if they did kind of custom measurements. So I came up with a shackle mount, and I basically took an angle grinder, cut a slot in the rear center bumper. So the stock Nissan Xterra bumper, cut a slot that was about 1 inch wide and 3 inches tall, so this tab could fit through it. And I had drilled holes that matched up with the bumper mounting holes on the frame rail. So I basically had frame mounted rear recovery points that I could put a bow shackle on, hook up a strap to, and that helped for being able to, recover folks from off-roading or get myself recovered as well. All right, so at this point, it's December of 2012. And, well, I decided to install the 2-inch body lift. This was mainly just because I was starting to get bored. I was starting to get bored. I pieced together a body lift kit. I had some help from a few people. They helped me get the body lift installed. At this point, I'm also missing my front bumper. This is kind of a funny one, but the lower plastic bumper, I was just driving down the road, hit a big pothole, and the whole thing just jarred loose. It got like wrapped up underneath the tire and broke. So I was riding around without a front bumper for a while. And so I knew I needed to find a fabricator that could go ahead and get me a nice looking off-road bumper. So January 23rd, 2013. So at this point, I decided to pick up some 3-inch lift shocks for the front, K&N panel air filter, 2-inch body lift gap guard. So these are just rubber mats that kind of cover up the big gap left behind after a body lift. Got some ultra low profile bump stops because one of the stock bump stops was actually had like fallen out of the frame there. You know, got 2 decals for 4x4parts.com. You know, so they say 15 horsepower each sticker you put on. So that was January of 2013, making some good progress. So January 29th of 2013, I ended up picking up some sliders. These were Schrockworks rock sliders. I ended up picking them up used off of someone from Club Xterra. And so they didn't want them anymore. They decided to get rid of them. Somehow I convinced them to ship them to me because they showed up in battered cardboard. There was no way that was easy to transport. So I knew that I wanted a local fabricator to make my front bumper, but I was still asking around. So it was January 30th of 2013 by the time I was able to get the bumper actually built. So like I said, custom built bumper. It's got a raised winch mount, which was pretty cool. That was nice. And you know, they sent me some pics along the way as they were building so I could post to the build thread here. So I really liked how it turned out. Now at this point, the person that made my bumper, I actually sent them an extra $325 because they were going to make me a engine, transmission, and transfer case skid plates. They gave me my truck back and they said they didn't get a chance to get the skid plates done, but they would build them on another Xterra and then let me come pick them up. Never heard back from them again. And yeah, despite my trying to get in contact with them, it didn't work out so well. So got scammed there. So lesson be learned. People that may do good fabrication work, make sure that you get the products that you are paying for, because it's apparently common to send people parts, send people money, and not get your stuff returned and not get things done. All right, so at this point, February 22nd, 2013, who doesn't like to have some glamour shots? At this point, got some nice snow where I was living in Iowa. Took some photos at the local park with the snowy background here. I also got a light bar up on the upper roof rack. I had some 4 halogen spotlights, just some cheap stuff I picked up at Walmart. They looked pretty cool, you know, until you go off-roading in the woods and a tree branch starts taking them off like they're playing t-ball there. So by April 9th, I had installed a better CB antenna. So I used my mount and mounted it to the front tube on my bumper. I actually ended up using like a U-bolt with an extra long metal flange and bolted it on there, drilled a hole, and was able to mount a 4-foot fire stick. And at this point, I posted that I conquered my fear of cutting metal and I rocked the snorkel. Got a snorkel head from eBay that fits 3-inch PVC pipe, so 3.5-inch inner diameter there. Over-engineered a concept to try and get a dual inlet from the airbox. Didn't quite work, so just started routing up the PVC pipe. Like I've mentioned in previous videos, I was never really happy with how it turned out. I changed it from a full-on snorkel to a low-profile snorkel. And still, it never looked good. It honestly looked like I cut a hole in my fender and put PVC pipe on it. So wouldn't do that again. Not worth it. All right, so April 2013. Yeah, went off-roading at one of the off-road parks in Iowa. The bad, I dented my fender, my front passenger fender, on a tree because someone said, hey, go up this hill, even though I knew that there was no way I could make it. And then when I had to come back down, you know, the trail kind of wove around a tree, and my front passenger side fender, as I was cranking the steering wheel to the left and backing up, my front fender knocked right into it. Broke a tie rod adjuster, had to get towed back to camp. Yeah, almost rolled into a creek since I had no steering. So lessons learned, keep trail spares. So I was bailed out there. We had to make, I'll call it a trophy now, but basically no part stores had tie rod adjusters available. So, you know, luckily we knew some people that knew some people that had a workshop that had some scrap tube in their scrap metal bin and a welder, and we took an angle grinder, cut the threaded ends off of the broken tie rod adjuster, and welded it into the tube to make our own version of one that could at least limp it along for another few days until the heavy duty ones I got from 4x4parts.com showed up. So it was still an awesome time on the trails. And at this point, it was funny. I said I had documented proof that I do take my truck off-road, because some people were starting to post that like I do all these glamour shots and I build it all up, but I never actually take it off-road. This is documented proof that I am, in fact, off of a paved road. So November of 2013, at this point, I'm over at a muffler shop. So I'm back in the southeast at this point, took my truck in to get a MagnaFlow exhaust put in. So I was pretty excited with the custom tubing that they did. And at that point, also November of 2013, I had built up my rear bumper. So this is one that I built in my garage with a Harbor Freight welder. Designed it, built it up myself. It was a lot of fun. Here's the first off-road trip at Uwharrie National Forest, because I'm in North Carolina at this point. And you can see I've got the fender lined with the bed liner, Herculiner. Got some good flex in the rear with the tall shackles, the longer shocks, and no rear sway bar, so that helps out quite a bit. And then, you know, I got suckered into the deal for front lockas. So January of 2014, I was like, dude, $300 for a locker for the front diff. I'm totally going to do that. So I posted my how-to on how to install front diff drop bushings, which was a major pain, and also installing the front locker. It took a while. At this point, it was not my primary vehicle, so I let it sit in the garage for a bit. All right, so now we're talking May 2014. So this was a fun trip. This was actually my bachelor party before I got married, but yeah, we went over to an off-road beach that you can actually drive out on, and you could camp there as well. So me and a bunch of friends, we took a couple four-wheel drive vehicles out on the beach, set up a big camp, had one or two cold beers, and had a good night. So by April of 2015, I ended up getting a Mako spray-on paint job. They were running like a Christmas deal. I didn't like all that fender liner and spray-on bed liner on the fenders. I replaced both fenders, so I got rid of my snorkel that I didn't like. I got some junkyard fenders. I also had a dent in the rear driver's side door, so I replaced that with a junkyard door. I scraped off and kind of sanded off a lot of that bed liner that was on the fender arches and got a spray-on paint job. It actually held up pretty good, given the fact it was like less than $1,000 to fix kind of the body damage. At this point, I was still trying to figure out steering system issues and alignment, and I had sent center links and some other parts to pmpengineering.com. They basically kept a lot of it, never did anything, and then finally they shipped parts back to me. They had modified the idler arm and the pitman arm, but never did the center link, and it was really kind of annoying. So I ended up with the Grassroots center link, and I ended up doing a little bit of a homebrew steering system. I've got a video on that, but this was December of 2015 that I updated the steering system. So in July of 2016, I got some BFG KM2 mud terrain tires, 33, 10.5, 15s. They were awesome. I had fabricated up a tire carrier for the rear bumper at this time, and I was going to test it off-road, nothing too crazy, but we had a nice July 4th weekend out at the beach, so got to drive the Xterra out on the beach, which was really nice. That ended up being just driving out on the beach, one of my actual most favorite things to do. I kind of enjoy that more than actual like real off-roading. August of 2016, yeah, finally got to go off-roading into, quote-unquote real trails, not just beach driving. It was a muddy, sloppy mess where we were, but it was fun to get it out in the mud. So I also ended up, I think, with some more body damage after this trip. I'm trying to remember exactly what happened with it, but that was kind of disappointing. I scraped the passenger rear, I guess, D-pillar right on the corner where the hatch is above the tail light. That rubbed up against the tree. So there's like, what, a year after that Mako paint job. That was disappointing after spending that much money to get it fixed up. But, shit happens. So July of 2019, so this took quite a bit of a hiatus from posting here, but you know, I got too much tire, too much steel, too much weight to turn, so I got to get some more power out of it. Really, at this point, I was around 100,000 miles. I was due for a timing belt, and I said, well, if I'm going to do a timing belt, then I might as well do a camshaft swap. So I actually documented this pretty well on YouTube, but I got stock cams from a 1989 Nissan 300ZX, so Z31s, at the local pull-apart junkyard. I sent them in through the Z store, which then forwarded them on to Schneider Racing Cams. And they sent them back to the Z store, then the Z store sent them to me. So they were just a regrind cam. And yeah, they've dropped right into the Nissan Xterra. So that takes me up to 2019, and that was really the last thing that I posted in my build thread. I would say that from there, it's pretty much my YouTube channel. So anyway, now you get the context behind this overall build. It took pretty much a decade. Bittersweet to see the Xterra go, but now at least its legacy and the build that I have done is, you know, preserved on YouTube, on Xterra Nation, on Club Xterra. So thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoy the content of these videos. Feel free to email if you have other questions about building your own Nissan Xterra. Otherwise, stay tuned as I gradually transition content to more Toyota Tacoma specific.